Here. This video is just discussing your modus operandi, your structure, early information, and your pre-reasoning or pre-reasoning, so to speak, prior to any classroom inspection, either on a formal basis or it can be used for peer review if you were to have other teachers or the principal inspecting your class. I know a lot of teachers may be hesitant of that, but once the guidelines are set that one is observing another professional to increase his or her proficiency in terms of teaching or exploring or opening him or her up to new thoughts processes, and the information recorded is not being used um, in an employment perspective for or against the teacher, that it's purely professional in terms of in-house CPD, there should be no problem with it. So during a classroom visit, obviously you need to have your lesson plan sorted out. Your teacher or inspector will have a brief discussion with you to find out what are the topic, aims, or contents of the lesson, what the background of the class prior knowledge. Your observer may ask you about your methodology, classroom management, atmosphere, student learning, student engagement, so on and so forth. So by and large, the person observing the classroom, be it the inspector, be it the principal, be it other colleagues, would play a passive role observing the class, looking for best practice in terms of methodology, teacher student talk, peer group assessment for learning, student interactions, listening to the contributions from all parties, and possibly the, for example, if it was a teacher our teacher in the classroom interacting with the various groups to clarify student knowledge, to see what did they know, how engaged they are in the subjects, and what may form the basis of any questioning or discussions. So at a more formative level, may want to examine students' work as schoolwork, homework, journals where appropriate, where time permits. And it would be important to have the correcting of students' work kind of up to date with meaningful feedback given to the students. It doesn't have to be in a mechanical fashion where you're writing mini essays in each individual copies. You can have a reference system whereby you relate to kind of something else as long as the student can figure out what you mean. So again, preparing for any classroom visit, any inspection, any invitation of another teacher to come in to have a look at your practice, because it does take somebody strong willed to say, I'm confident in my ability and I know what I'm doing, but yet I don't know everything, so I'm inviting other professionals in to expand my thought process and open myself up to refinement. It's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing, as long as it doesn't have any employment consequences or used for or against, depending on the political motivation of the school. So, again, the purposes ought to be you'd evaluate teaching, it's good practice, it's affirmative, you bring an outsider perspective, for example, a teacher from another discipline who's not a language teacher, for example, to give his or her 2 cents, so to speak. So they're observing learning, they're recording the evidence. Now, when I mention recording, it's just for feedback of yourself in the classroom. It's not going to be used for or against a teacher. It may form some part of debriefing session or minutes from a departmental point of view, going towards improved internal CPD continual professional development. So there's no political or legal basis attached to the word recording here. So again, feedback from one teacher to another, one instructor to another, or the principal. This is only if it's the most formal situation. But again, let's say if you have a principal who's a leader of he or she's a leader of the school, information is not held against you, but rather gathered and summarized to prop you up and brighten your future and to make you better, not drag you down. So, the typical structure is in the classroom. At the beginning of a lesson, the inspector introduces him or herself. The students need to be aware why is the other person there, what's their focus, and what you're going to be doing during lesson observations. Okay. So the other teacher, the inspector, will focus on teaching and learning, observing methodologies, what the students are doing, how are they responding, what is the teacher doing, any downtime, any kind of like hush in language, what would be the hidden curriculum of the lesson, what are the students doing, and also what are they not doing, how are they reacting, if they're in group works, is everybody contributing, and also who's kind of messing, what classroom management techniques could be refined, or what may work depending on student profiles attached to the atmosphere of the classroom, because we all know students behave differently depending on the time of the day. So that's more or less it. Whatever has to say, best practice leading towards the betterment of your professional development would suggest that peer reviews at a professional level are quite good, and once they're in a cognitive and professional setting the whereby it's established that feelings won't get hurt, your effective domain isn't into question, you're looking at it at a quasi objective professional stance, it's a good thing.